Every July, the same thing happens on patios all across the country. The thermometer climbs past 90, the lettuce bolts, the spinach goes bitter overnight. The peas shrivel on the vine. It's enough to make some gardeners pack up the watering can, push the empty pots into the corner of the porch, and quietly decide that the gardening season is over until September. But the truth is almost the exact opposite. July heat is not the end of the growing year. For a whole category of vegetables, it is the beginning of their real season. These crops do not merely survive a 90-degree afternoon. They wait for it. They accelerate in it. They set more fruit, push more leaf, and stretch more vine in a single hot week than the cool weather crops manage in a month. And in containers, that effect is magnified. Pots warm faster than open ground. Drainage is sharper, since the pot itself enforces good drainage where flat clay soil never can, and it carries off the heavy summer rainstorms that rot in-ground crowns. The gardener controls the soil, the spacing, and the position. A dark grow bag on a sunny patio behaves like a small slice of the tropics, and that is exactly what these 15 crops were tuned for. So in today's video, we're counting down 15 summer heat-loving container vegetables that thrive when the rest of the garden gives up. Make sure to stick around until the very end. Not only will we reveal our number one, a leafy green that almost no North American gardener has heard of, but we'll also share the simple container trick that turns a 95-degree patio into the most productive corner of your yard. Let's get started. Music. At number 15, we have bush basil. Most people picture basil as a delicate, fussy herb that wilts at the first sign of stress. They tuck it into a tiny windowsill pot and wait for it to fail. But experienced container gardeners know the opposite is true. Basil is a heat lover. It barely moves at all in cool spring weather, and it really starts leafing out once the air pushes past 80 degrees. In the open garden, basil sits in heavy, slow-warming soil. Slugs find it. Spring rains rot the lower stems. But a 1-foot-wide container, holding at least a gallon of fresh mix, lifts the roots into warm, well-drained territory. The plant responds within days. A pot 10 to 12 inches deep, set in 6 to 8 hours of direct sun, will deliver a season's worth of pesto from a single south-facing balcony. First pinching comes at the 6-leaf stage, and from there, the bush keeps producing tender leaves for 25 to 35 days, then keeps going all summer if the flower spikes are pinched out as they appear. Music. Sometimes the secret to growing better basil isn't shade or shelter. It's simply giving the plant the heat it was built for. Moving down to number 14, we have compact eggplant. Most gardeners assume eggplant is a temperamental crop, prone to flower drop and bare bushes. They give up after one frustrating season. But the truth is that eggplant is one of the few summer vegetables that genuinely requires the heat to thrive and produce. When tomato flowers are falling off in a 90-degree week, eggplant is quietly setting fruit. In the ground, eggplant sits in cool, compacted soil through May and never really gets going until July. In a dark grow bag, the root zone runs warmer all season, and the plant pushes flowers 2 to 3 weeks earlier than its in-ground neighbor. A container 14 to 16 inches deep, holding 5 gallons of mix per plant, is the right size for a Japanese or compact globe variety. With 8 hours of full sun, expect glossy fruit 65 to 80 days from transplant. Music. Sometimes the secret to growing better eggplant isn't babying it through the cool months. It's letting the pot do what the ground cannot, which is run hot from the moment the slips go in. Coming in at number 13, we have sweet peppers and mini bells. Most people think peppers need perfect mild weather to set fruit. They watch their plants flower beautifully in June and then drop every blossom in the July heat wave, and they assume the season is lost. But experienced container gardeners know the fix is simply mobility. Peppers love warmth, but day temperatures above 90 and nights above 75 can suppress fruit set for a few days. In the ground, the gardener has no recourse. In a pot, that same gardener rolls the container into 2 hours of afternoon shade, recovers pollination the same day, and rolls it back at sundown. A 12-inch deep pot, 3 to 5 gallons per plant, with 6 to 8 hours of sun, gives the right balance. Elevated drainage carries off the warm summer rainstorms that rot in-ground crowns. Compact container cultivars produce 60 to 75 days from transplant. Music. Sometimes the secret to growing better peppers isn't perfect weather. It's the ability to move the whole plant 2 feet, twice a day, during the worst of the heat. Next up at number 12, we have the tomatillo. Most gardeners picture the tomatillo as a strange husk-wrapped cousin of the tomato that needs the same fussy care. But surprisingly, tomatillos are noticeably more drought and heat tolerant than tomatoes. When the tomato cage stops setting fruit in a 95-degree week, the tomatillos keep dropping their papery husks onto the patio one after another. In the open ground, gardeners forget that tomatillos are not self-pollinating. They plant just one and harvest nothing. The container approach makes the fix obvious. 2 plants in matched 7-gallon bags, set side by side, choreograph the cross-pollination automatically. A pot 14 to 16 inches deep, holding 7 gallons each, with 8 hours of sun, produces husk-filled fruit 75 to 90 days from transplant. Drainage is critical, since the heavy summer rains will otherwise drown the deep root system. Music. Sometimes the secret to a productive tomatillo harvest isn't fancy fertilizer. It's simply remembering to plant 2 pots, not 1. Coming in at number 11, we have pole snap beans. Most people think of snap beans as a cool weather crop that finishes by midsummer. They sow once in May, harvest in July, and then pull the vines. But experienced container gardeners know the pole types behave very differently. They keep flowering and bearing right up until frost. In the ground, the soil takes its time crossing the 60-degree mark that bean seeds need to germinate. A black grow bag on a south-facing patio crosses that threshold a full week earlier, and that head start extends the harvest deep into the hot months. A 10-gallon container, 12 inches deep, fitted with a simple 6-foot trellis or tomato cage, supports 1 pole bean variety from late June through September. 6 to 8 hours of sun, consistent water and good drainage are all the plant needs. Pods come in 55 to 70 days. Music. Sometimes the secret to a long bean harvest isn't succession planting. It's choosing a pole type, giving it 1 tall pot, and letting it climb. Music. Moving down to number 10, we have dwarf okra. Most northern gardeners assume okra is a southern-only crop, too tender and too slow for their short season. But surprisingly, the container is the answer Pennsylvania extension officers actually recommend. They suggest slipping seedlings into large pots just as the hot season begins. The pot is not a workaround. It is the method. Okra is a tropical that grows best between 70 and 85 degrees. and it co-evolved with the warm soils of West Africa. A black grow bag on a sunny patio drives the root zone hotter than any mulched garden bed ever will. A pot 14 to 18 inches deep, 5 to 7 gallons of mix, with 8 hours of full sun, holds one dwarf, spineless plant. Those compact cultivars are far less likely to fall over than the 6-foot field types. Pods are ready 50 to 65 days from transplant. Music. Sometimes the secret to growing okra in a cool climate isn't waiting for a hotter summer. It's putting the soil itself in a container that heats up on its own. Coming in at number 9, we have southern peas, also called cowpeas. Most gardeners outside the deep south have never tried them. They picture them as a field crop, not a patio one. But experienced container gardeners know cowpeas are a small space superstar, prized for high heat tolerance, rapid growth, and the ability to fix their own nitrogen. In the open ground, the cowpea curculio destroys whole rows in the southern states. Lifted into an elevated container, the plant escapes that emergent cycle entirely. Poor soil is no obstacle either, since the plant feeds itself. A pot 10 to 12 inches deep, 5 to 7 gallons of mix with 6 to 8 hours of sun, holds one bush cultivar. Pink eye purple hull or a similar variety matures in 60 to 70 days, even through humid 95-degree weeks. Music. Sometimes the secret to growing peas in the hottest part of the year isn't shade cloth. It's choosing the southern pea, the one that was bred for this exact weather. Next up at number 8, we have the yard-long bean, sometimes called the asparagus bean. Most gardeners have never seen one. They picture green beans as 6-inch pods on a low bush. But yard-long beans are a tropical climbing vine that genuinely thrives in heat and withers in cold. They begin producing abundantly only once the weather turns hot. In the open ground, the deep taproot wastes itself in heavy clay. In a tall container, that same taproot pushes straight down through loose mix and supports a vine that climbs effortlessly. A pot 12 inches deep, 10 gallons of mix, fitted with a 6-foot trellis, supports a single yard-long vine. 6 to 8 hours of sun, and the gardener begins harvesting 12 to 18-inch pods, 60 to 80 days from transplant. One pot pulls more pods per square foot than any in-ground green bean row. Music. Sometimes the secret to a heavy bean harvest isn't planting more rows. It's planting one vertical pot of a vine that genuinely loves the heat. Moving down to number 7, we have sweet potatoes in grow bags. Most people picture sweet potatoes as a sprawling, acre-eating crop that demands a real farm. But experienced container gardeners know the truth. A soft-walled grow bag is the ideal vessel. The fabric breathes, the soil heats fast, and the tubers form in loose, friable mix instead of compacted clay. Sweet potatoes are drought and heat tolerant with very few pests or diseases. They need at least 4 months of warm weather and warm soil at 80 degrees to size up properly. A dark grow bag delivers that warmth automatically. A bag holding at least 5 gallons of mix, 12 to 14 inches deep, takes 1 or 2 slips planted 6 inches down. With 6 to 8 hours of sun, an edible cultivar such as Beauregard, Vardaman, or Puerto Rico finishes in 90 to 120 days. Music. Sometimes the secret to growing real sweet potatoes on a patio isn't more land. It's a fabric bag that turns July sunshine directly into root growth. Coming in at number 6, we have red Malabar spinach. Most gardeners hear spinach and assume the plant will bolt the moment summer arrives. They are right about regular spinach, but Malabar is not a true spinach at all. It is a vigorous tropical climbing vine that withstands hot summers easily, and it produces best in exactly the weeks when European spinach has already given up. In the open ground, soil pH and texture are hard to engineer. In a pot, the gardener controls both. A loose mix at the right slightly acidic range gives Malabar exactly what it wants. A container 12 inches deep, 10 gallons of mix, fitted with a 6-foot trellis, supplies thick, glossy salad leaves for an entire household from mid-July through first frost. 6 to 8 hours of sun, with a little afternoon shade tolerated. First harvest is ready in 70 to 85 days, and the vine then produces cut and come again indefinitely. Music. Sometimes the secret to a summer salad bowl isn't refrigeration tricks. It's growing a tropical vine that treats August as its prime season. Next up at number 5, we have vegetable amaranth, also called callaloo. Most North American gardeners have walked past it in seed catalogs without recognizing the abundance hiding there. But experienced container gardeners know amaranth is one of the most heat-tolerant, drought-tolerant, and low-maintenance leafy greens on the planet. The biology explains it. Amaranth is a so-called C4 plant, meaning it actually gains photosynthetic efficiency at 90-degree-plus weather, exactly where European spinach stalls and stops. Even better, peer-reviewed work shows the leaves' antioxidant load increases under heat and drought stress. The hotter it gets, the more nutritious the harvest becomes. A pot 10 inches deep, 3 to 5 gallons of mix, densely seeded for cut and come again, holds a productive patch. 6 to 8 hours of sun, and the first baby leaf cut is ready in 30 to 45 days. Mature leaves come in 60 to 70. Music. Sometimes the secret to summer greens isn't fighting the heat, it's choosing a plant that turns the heat into more nutrition. Music. Moving down to number 4, we have turmeric. Most gardeners think of turmeric as a spice from a far-off country, not as something a patio gardener could ever grow. But experienced container gardeners know turmeric is essentially a container-only crop across most of the United States. It needs a long, warm, 9 to 10 month season, and it needs loose, well-drained, rhizome-friendly soil that is much easier to engineer in a pot than in heavy native clay. The container is not a compromise, it is a tunable yield system. Larger pots produce larger rhizomes. A 16-gallon container can pull more than 2 pounds of fresh turmeric per plant. A pot at least 12 inches deep and 14 inches across, or a 7-gallon grow bag with 4 to 6 hours of bright sun and a little afternoon shade, holds 1 rhizome. The crop takes 240 to 300 days to mature. Patience pays in pounds of fresh turmeric harvested on the patio. Music. Sometimes the secret to growing exotic spices isn't a tropical climate. It's a deep pot, a sunny corner, and the willingness to wait 1 full season. Coming in at number 3, we have Roselle, sometimes called Florida cranberry. Most gardeners have never planted it. They have only met it as the red color in a cup of hibiscus tea. But experienced container gardeners treat Roselle as a true abundance crop, a tropical shrub native to West and Central Africa, prized for its lobed leaves and its cranberry-flavored red calices. In the open ground, Roselle grows into a 5 to 7 foot shrub. In a 7-gallon container, that same plant stays a manageable 3 to 4 feet, which is a feature, not a bug, for a balcony or patio. A pot 14 inches deep, 7 to 10 gallons of mix in 8 hours of full sun supports one Roselle plant beautifully. Tender leaves are ready in 90 to 120 days. The famous red calices follow as day length shortens in fall, 150 to 180 days from transplant. Music. Sometimes the secret to a truly tropical patio garden isn't moving to Florida. It's giving one West African shrub one deep pot of its own. Next up at number 2, we have tepary beans. Most gardeners have never heard the name, but experienced container growers know tepary is the most heat and drought-adapted bean on the planet. A North American native domesticated thousands of years ago under the heat of the Sonoran Desert by pre-Columbian farmers. The science is striking. Tepary genome work confirms the plant's photosynthetic machinery keeps functioning at leaf temperatures that shut common beans down completely. It grows in regions with under 16 inches of annual rainfall. A 7-gallon grow bag on a 100-degree patio is functionally identical to its native habitat. A pot 10 inches deep, 5 to 7 gallons of mix with 8 hours of full sun holds one bush plant. No trellis required. Cultivars like Mittler Black or Brown Tepary finish dry beans in 75 to 90 days, or green pods in 50 to 60, with almost no irrigation once established. Music. Sometimes the secret to growing beans through a brutal heat wave isn't more water. It's the right bean, the one that was already built for that exact desert. Music. And that brings us to number 1. Coming in at the top of our list, we have Molokhia, also known as Egyptian spinach. This is the heat superstar that the entire Nile Delta has eaten for 4,000 years, and almost no North American patio gardener has ever planted it. Molokhia is the cleanest possible example of a crop that does not merely tolerate the heat, it demands it. The plant accelerates in 95-degree weather, producing tender mucilaginous leaves through the very weeks when chard, spinach and lettuce have all bolted and gone bitter. It is a warm weather alternative to every cool season green on the patio. In the open ground, gardeners spend July fighting bolting greens. In a single 5-gallon pot, densely sown for cut and come again, Molokhia gives one household leaves from July through September and beyond. A container 10 to 12 inches deep, holding 5 gallons of mix with 6 to 8 hours of sun is all it takes. First cut comes in 50 to 60 days. From there, 4 to 6 successive cuts follow at 10 to 14-day intervals, right up to frost. Peer-reviewed work confirms the leaves carry an antioxidant and phytochemical load that rivals or exceeds true spinach, so the upgrade is nutritional as well as agronomic. Music. One quick note: harvest the leaves only. The seed pods are not edible and should be discarded before cooking. Stick to the tender leaves and the plant will reward an entire household all summer long. Sometimes the secret to a productive summer leafy green isn't shade cloth, isn't refrigeration tricks, and isn't surrender. It's the one African staple that turns July heat into the best harvest of the year. Music. The biggest mistake patio gardeners make in July is assuming the heat has ended the season. Most pack the tools away. Most decide the spinach was the whole story and that the rest of the summer is for resting, not for growing. But sometimes the truth runs in the opposite direction. The hottest weeks of the year are the most productive weeks for an entire tier of crops that the average gardener has never even tried. You don't need acres of land. You don't need a tropical climate. You don't even need a backyard. A handful of well-placed pots on a south-facing balcony filled with the right heat-tier crops can outperform a whole conventional garden in July, August, and September. Drainage carries off the storms, the pot warms faster than the ground. The gardener controls the soil, the spacing, the sun, and the mobility. Once you experience how productive container gardening can become at the height of summer, you'll start seeing patios, balconies, porches, and sunny corners in a completely different way. That hot concrete corner is not a problem. It is a resource. That dark grow bag is not a compromise. It is a tunable yield system. The same heat that bolts lettuce is the heat that pushes okra, sweet potatoes, turmeric, Roselle, tepary beans, and Molokhia into their best performance of the year. Build a heat-tier garden once, and the abundance carries straight through from midsummer to fall. If this video helped you, hit that subscribe button and leave a like. It tells us to keep producing this kind of practical, abundance-minded container content for small space gardeners. Which of these 15 heat-loving crops are you planning to grow first? Let us know down in the comments. We read every one, and the answers often shape the next video. In our next video, we'll reveal the 10 best container vegetables for autumn, the ones that take over the pots the moment the heat finally breaks. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next garden.